Captain Indrix Jayan, Gratonian Emergency Force.
The command room was engulfed in complete silence. Every member had their eyes fixed on the live body cam feeds in the front of the room, watching soldiers get efficiently ripped apart by the heavily underestimated human. Shocked to the point of inaction, witnessing the direct repercussions of their negligence. I was not shocked at this outcome, for I had warned them as much as allowed. However, that is not to say that I'd been aware of just how hopeless the situation was. While I did expect heavy losses to stem from this lackluster solution, I did not foresee our weapons being completely ignored by that man. I too had been awe-stricken during the capstone of this slaughter. The officer having his head slowly crushed, the process unimpeded by our full hail of bullets. Thinking back to the incident in the prison, I had only survived due to Dominique seeing the situation as entertaining rather than threatening. Nobody even turned their heads when I got up and left, too preoccupied with watching their men get torn to shreds. While they had stared in horror, I'd been studying in scrutiny, looking for any sign of weakness that could be noted. I found one. That human, despite being a machine of war, still accrued damage like any other physical object. He'd started to slow down over the course of the fight, taking constant abuse from our attacks, even if it was minimal. There would surely be a period of downtime after the mist settled. I stormed through the austere halls of the ship with zeal in mind. Any crew members immediately filed to the side, letting me pass unimpeded. Even if I was a disgraced captain, it seemed that there was still respect for me among the ranks. It wasn't long before reaching my destination, the orbital strike control room. I wasted no time explaining myself, immediately barking orders for the soldier manning the weapon to leave her post. I locked the door behind her using a stolen emergency class card. I sat at the control terminal and started reacquainting myself with the system, recalling my time in this post back before I was promoted to captain. After a minute of fiddling with the settings and reawakening my muscle memory, I trained the sights over to the coordinates and located my target, giving me a clear overhead view of the area. Seeing it from this angle, I came to the realization that the word massacre was insufficient for describing the scene. It was a landscape of mountains and rivers formed from stacked bodies and flowing blood. There would be no separating individuals for funeral rites. I'll be doing everyone a favor by torching the entire perimeter. I spotted the monster among the wreckage, standing idly just as I had predicted, and activated the charging sequence. Anticipation began to build up along with the rising pitch of the various systems whirring. The weapon couldn't be stopped at this point. It was already at a volatile stage, and not firing was a non-option. All there was left for me to do was keep the sights on target and attain my revenge. And at the final few seconds before firing, something beyond reason took its hold in reality. The human, Dominique, looked at me. With over 100,000 kilometers of space separating us, the angular precision to even direct eyes onto this ship was astronomical, and yet he was looking directly at me. Not even at the camera or weapon, no. He was making eye contact with me, as if we were just a couple of meters apart. An explosion rocked the ship, knocking me out of my seat and introducing my face to the floor. The pain of falling was secondary to the gut-wrenching dread spreading through my body. I shot up to my feet and checked the weapon's status. System offline. I had expected so, considering I never heard the weapon fire. I hadn't expected the wave of despair that followed this revelation, however, as it also confirmed other, more grievous truths. This wasn't an accident, not after he acknowledged my presence the way he did. There was a very real chance that our communication systems going haywire at the perfect moment for him to escape our view was completely his doing too. A dozen enemy warships were in orbit above him, but was his life even under threat? Did he have the power to bring us all down right now if he wanted to? There was a hole in this line of thinking. It wasn't possible for him to pierce the sky and compromise our security by himself, even with gross overestimations of his installed broadcasting capabilities. Did he have external help? Something evading our scanners? But even with these suspicions giving me a new line of action, I had run out of time. Nobody was going to let a disgraced captain lock themselves in a weapon control room, and it seems they finally brought equipment to manually force the door open. Armed men swarmed into the room. guns not directly pointed at me but still ready to answer any defiance. I wasn't planning on doing so anyway.
Captain Nathaniel Brand.
The routine melancholic silence of overseeing the colony's progress was interrupted by a much-anticipated urgent notification, notifying me of Pioneer 233's return. Avalon's excursion lasted far longer than either of us estimated, and I had been apprehensive about reaching out to him for fear of compromising his cover. I wasted no time in signaling the hangar to prepare for docking, overseeing the process with the surveillance system. I was taken by surprise when two people exited the ship. One was the Tin Man I'd expected to see, but following behind him was an alien passenger that I hadn't been informed of. I recognized them as a Mokango from the information package supplied by the Meldrin, but it had been detailed that they're an extremely sparse race. Even more surprising was that, instead of the hangar crew raising a concern and contacting me on how to proceed, they continued with offloading and escorting as though this had been expected. I hadn't given out orders on where they should be taken, yet their destination had already been decided. Avalon? Yes, Captain. You gave out orders without my permission? Avalon operated under a specific set of rules we had determined and agreed upon during his official recognition as a member of this colonization. One of the most important rules outlined was that Avalon would not communicate with the crew without my permission. Now he'd broken the rule and wouldn't respond to my query. Avalon, speak to me. Why did the mission take so long? Who is that alien? The alien seems to be a close friend of Pioneer Dominique. The two refused immediate extraction in place of their own goals on the planet, forcing me to cover for them during the operation. They located and raised a hidden facility, though Dominique won't tell me what was in it. And why did you send them straight to the isolated quarters? Captain, please view this recording. The live feed of the hangar was replaced with a video depicting an overhead view of thick jungle. There were hundreds of highlights along the trees marking the locations of Gratonian soldiers, all facing towards the cliffside that Dominique emerged from. It seemed like they initially tried to communicate with him, but he made an example of the speaker, getting showered with bullets in the process. Sloppy work, Dominique. The ensuing footage was a story I knew all too well. My time in service had made me a witness to multiple mental breakdowns, sometimes with dangerous results, depending on what the person had access to. None of those people ever had quite the implant licensing tier that Dominique has, nor were the victims of their outbursts so flimsy, but the situation was of the same nature. The question that plagued me was why. Dominique was a headstrong individual, so something terrible must have happened in that facility for him to crack like this. Did he not disclose it to Avalon due to a lack of trust? Cyborgs above a certain licensing tier have fail-safes installed to help mitigate catastrophic outcomes. Why didn't you use them to control the situation? Pioneer Dominique is able to resist my signals and shut me out, Captain. It's completely unprecedented, but he has a presence over his own mind as if he were a sentient machine like myself. We nearly fought each other when I first reached out to him. I internally sighed. Someone breaking their own fail-safes would have caused system-wide panic back home. But out here, it was just a reality I would have to work with. Control over the situation was constantly slipping further out of my sole grasp, despite my position as captain. Now the two most key individuals in my command were both displaying unruly behavior and aggression towards each other. I was exceedingly busy already and didn't have time to act as a chaperone. In less than an hour, I would be attending a meeting to discuss the possibility of humanity's second alliance on the galactic stage. This time, however, the other party was a nation in active conflict with the Gratonians. They had gone as far as pushing their front line with the Gratonians in a losing trade to pull away the blockade on this system, so the meeting could be arranged. The last thing I needed was an accident on the ship while I was planetside. I don't have time to deal with this right now. Prepare my lander for me, and while I'm gone, do what you can to mend your relationship with Dominique. Captain, that's absurd. He's the one that initially showed aggression and made the mission difficult. At least be professional, Avalon. It doesn't matter if it's unfair. You two are going to be working together by necessity. There are too many things going on for me to treat you two like children. And while you're at it, get that alien evaluated and have Dominique see a therapist. I could do with a reduction in unknown variables every now and then.